In other realms of learning, the University of Nigeria is all sublime. While we are still standing, may I humbly request the Catholic Bishop of Nsukka Diocese, Professor Godfrey Igwebike Honor, to come forward for the opening prayers. My Lord Bishop, please.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our help is in the name of the Lord. Almighty God and Father, in you is the source of our being. In your infinite wisdom and love, you created us in your own image and likeness, and thus endowed us with inalienable dignity and rights. We thank you. We ask you, Lord, to enlighten our minds as we gather today to deepen our understanding of human nature. Guide our steps as we take decisions that heighten and lighten and encourage that dignity to shine out. May whatever we do and say bring honor to your name and increase the glory and respect and dignity of your children, so that at the end, the products of this noble institution will be able to contribute their quota to the development of humanity. This is our prayer through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, my Lord Bishop. You may please be seated. May I request please take your seats. Those that do not have seats, we have provisions outside, and there is a screen that you can as well follow what is going on in the hall. Please, we want the eye to be cleared. Thank you very much. The visitor to the University of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the Honorable Minister of Education, the Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, the Pro-Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, Professor Adeboyega Adebayo Karim, FSI Daga, FSPSP, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, Professor Simon Uchenna Otwanya, SJD, the Chairman of today's occasion, Professor Chinedu Stadima Nebo, CON, the guest lecturer and the Governor of Enugu State, His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisi Mba, the Deputy Governor of Enugu State, members of the National Assembly, members of Enugu State Executive Council, honorable ministers, especially the Minister of Science and Technology, principal officers of the University of Nigeria, deans of faculty, directors of institute and center, members of the University of Nigeria Governing Council, our revered traditional rulers, members of the clergy, special acknowledgement to the Bishop of Catholic Diocese of Nsukka, His Lordship Professor Godfrey Igwebike Honor, alumni of the University of Nigeria, members of the University of Nigeria Student Union, captains of industry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, leaders of various political parties, lions and lionesses, I warmly welcome us to the 55th Convocation lecture of the University of Nigeria. I want to gladly inform us that today's lecture will be delivered by no other person but the Executive Governor of our dear state, Enugu State, His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisi Mba. And to also inform us that today's occasion will be chaired by the 12th Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria, who is also the current Vice Chancellor, University on the Niger, Venerable Professor Ositadema Chinedu Nebo, CON. Let me also very specially acknowledge the presence of the Pro-Chancellor of our dear university. He's here seated with his amiable wife. Permit me to acknowledge in a special way Professor Adeboyega Adebayo Karim, FSI Daga FSPSP. You're welcome, sir. And at the center of this package today is our amiable Vice Chancellor, the man who, within the short period of time, has proven that renewal of the University of Nigeria is possible. Let's give it up for Professor Simon Uchenna Otwanya. And the Vice Chancellor is here with his amiable wife, Barrister Grace Ngozi Otwanya. You're welcome, ma. Mr. Chairman, sir, permit me to acknowledge we have a number of them here. We have the Deputy Governor of our dear state, Deputy Governor of Enugu State, Barrister Ifeanyi Osai. You're welcome. I acknowledge members of the National Assembly that are here. Time will permit me, I will give you your special recognitions as we make progress with this program. But permit me, for want of time at this point, to invite the chairman of today's occasion, our very own past Vice Chancellor, former Minister, Federal Republic of Nigeria, the current Vice Chancellor, University on the Niger, Venerable Professor Ositadema Nebo, CON, for his opening remarks.
His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisi Mba, Governor of Enugu State, Deputy Governor, the Chancellor of the University, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, my Vice Chancellor, members of the Governing Council and Senate, distinguished members of the academic community, graduates, parents, ladies and gentlemen. I am particularly enthused to be here this morning. It's like homecoming for me. And I'm so grateful to the Vice Chancellor and the Senate Ceremonials Committee for asking me to chair this occasion, particularly because no one else other than the very governor, our beloved governor of Enugu State, will be delivering the lecture. So it is with immense pleasure and a deep sense of honor that I welcome you all to this memorable convocation lecture of our great University of Nigeria, Nsukka, the 55th convocation lecture. Convocation is much more than a celebration of academic achievement. It is a moment of reflection on the purpose of education and the responsibility that knowledge places upon those who acquire it. The founding vision of this great university to restore the dignity of man through education remains as relevant today as it was at its inception. It is therefore particularly fitting that today's lecture focuses on the theme, Restoring the Dignity of Man, Enugu's Quantum Leaps in Human Development and Inclusive Prosperity through Experiential Learning. The theme reminds us that the true measure of development is not merely the construction of roads, buildings, or industries, but the transformation of human lives. Development finds its highest expression when it equips people with knowledge, practical skills, opportunities, and hope. Experiential learning has become one of the defining imperatives of 21st century education. Our graduates must not only know, they must be able to create, innovate, solve problems, and lead societal transformation. Universities must therefore continue to build stronger bridges between the classroom and the workplace, between theory and practice, and between scholarship and service to society. It is gratifying that Enugu State is deliberately pursuing policies that place human capital development at the center of governance. Investments in education, healthcare, technology, entrepreneurship, agriculture, infrastructure, and youth empowerment being embarked upon by the government of Enugu State are all directed towards creating an inclusive economy where every citizen has the opportunity to flourish. This is indeed the pathway to restoring the dignity of man. Today's convocation lecturer, His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisi Mba, Executive Governor of Enugu State, in whom we are well pleased, requires little introduction. He has demonstrated a bold commitment to transforming Enugu State through visionary leadership, strategic investments, and an unwavering emphasis on human development as the foundation of sustainable prosperity. We therefore look forward to benefiting from his insights, experiences, and visions for building a society where education serves as the engine of innovation, productivity, and inclusive growth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, history teaches us that societies rise not merely by the wealth beneath their soil, but by the capacity, character, and creativity of their people. As Enugu State continues its bold journey of renewal and transformation under our current governor, we are privileged to hear directly from the chief architect of that vision today. I have no doubt that today's lecture will challenge our thinking broaden our horizons, and inspire us all to recommit ourselves to restoring the dignity of man through purposeful leadership, quality education, and shared prosperity. Your Excellency, we are confident that your lecture will challenge our minds, inspire our students, encourage our scholars, and stimulate meaningful conversations on the future of education and development in our nation. Having said that, and having welcomed all of you, especially His Excellency, today is very special for me because I would have been elsewhere celebrating with my wife of 49 years our 49th wedding anniversary. But here I am for my governor and our distinguished lecturer. The ball is in your court. God bless you all as you listen to this champion who is about to take us to another height with regards to what he's doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the chairman of today's occasion, Venerable Professor Sitadima Nebo, the 12th Vice Chancellor of the University of Nigeria. Today's event is very remarkable. We have a Venerable as the chairman, and we have two distinguished personalities bearing names that are very closely related. One is Simon, the second is Peter. You can put the argument together. And they are pursuing a renewal agenda, both at the state level and at the University of Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is on that note that I want to respectfully invite for his address the 16th Vice Chancellor of Nigeria's first university, Professor Simon Uchenna Otoanya, my Vice Chancellor, sir.
The lion's den, where the future is forged in the furnace of now. The visitor to our university and President and Commander-in-Chief, the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the CFR. Our dear visitor and president, you've left a mark never done in our country. You brought about the Students' Loan Fund, and through NEL Fund, you have ensured, Mr. President, that no child of Nigeria will not obtain a university education because of poverty. Thank you, our visitor. Thank you, Mr. President. The Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, a man of effervescent personality. You have brought energy. You have brought innovation and scholarship to the Education Ministry in Nigeria. Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister of Science, Innovation, and Technology, distinguished senior advocate of Nigeria, and our own son, with whom we are well placed, Dr. Kingsley Ude.
Thank you for being in the forefront of innovation and research and scholarship in education in our dear country. The Pro-Chancellor, the Chancellor of our university, the Oni of Ife. I'm sure he would have been here, but our dear Chancellor is bereaved. As a family, we mourn with him. Thank you, our Chancellor. Our Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, Professor A.A. Karim, is fortunately married to another Chancellor, a Vice Chancellor of a university, the Fountain University. And the other day, somebody joked, what will the conversation in bedroom look like? A Pro-Chancellor and a Vice Chancellor. Thank you, our dear Pro-Chancellor, and your wife for coming here. Your Excellency, the Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Ndubuisimba, you are the guest lecturer today. Unfortunately, you are the only philosopher of tomorrow is here. And I can tell you, Your Excellency, you are the only holder of the patent. Tomorrow is here. Your patent tomorrow is here. Is in our library, in our laboratories, in our research rooms, and where our scholars, our academics and professors are still unbundling the whole ambit of your patent. Tomorrow is here. We pray, Your Excellency, today that your patent will meet our motto to restore the dignity of man, and that the unveiling of that patent will be done today. Thank you, Your Excellency. We want to thank Your Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Enugu State. We want to thank all members of Council. We want to thank members of the National Assembly, distinguished Senator Ikeja Soga. We implore you to please let every member of National Assembly, every member of State Assembly, every local government chairman queue behind Ikeja and take your blessings. Your royal fathers, we thank you for coming here. We want to thank in a special way the Catholic Bishop of Nsukka. This is an unusual time coming out of the annual retreat for bishops and Catholics and priests. We thank our Lord Bishop, Bishop Godfrey, Professor Igwebike Ona, for coming here. We thank also our royal fathers, Igbo Gadegid and the rest of them. And of course, I am privileged to have as chairman today the man who employed me as a lecturer in University of Nigeria in the first place. Professor Nebo, thank you. I want to thank my dear wife, Ngozi, for making it possible and creating an environment that enabled me to be here today. Thank you. Our dear members of council, professors, deans of faculties, heads of departments, our Wadif all the way from America and your wife, Professor Richardson, every member of the academic community, our dear lions and lionesses, members of the fourth estate of the realm, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Every university occupies a location. Only a few occupy a destiny. The University of Nigeria was never intended to be another dot on the cartographer's map. Here, geography yielded to history, and a campus became a covenant. It was conceived not merely as an institution of higher learning, but as a moral enterprise where the life and the mind would illuminate the destiny of a people, where scholarship would become the conscience of society, and where education would find its highest fulfillment in restoring the dignity of the human person. More than 6 decades later, that founding vision continues to breathe through our classroom, animate our scholarship, and echo across these hills in 5 immortal words that remain both our compass and our covenant to restore the dignity of man. Today, as we gather for the convocation lecture of our 55th convocation ceremonies, permit me, on behalf of the Governing Council, Senate, management, staff, students, and alumni, to warmly welcome you to this historic institution, to the Lion's Den. The lion is more than an anthem. It's more than an emblem. It is our temperament. Its roar is not one of conquest, but of courage. Not of dominance, but of awakening. It calls every generation to rise above complacency and become worthy custodians of the inheritance entrusted to it. That call has defined our journey over the past year, when we assumed the responsibility of leading this great university. Our minds turned instinctively to the timeless account of Nehemiah. His generation stood between broken walls. Our own confronted different realities, not broken by stone, but by the relentless demands of a rapidly changing world, a world that compels universities to rethink their purpose, renew their systems, and reinvent their relevance. Across the centuries came the same summons: come and let us rebuild. Our response was immediate: arise, let us rebuild. For us, rebuilding has never been about bricks alone. Institutions are first rebuilt in the mind before they are rebuilt in space. They are rebuilt through renewed confidence, shared purpose, and disciplined execution. That philosophy has guided every decision we have taken. We resolved that the University of Nigeria must not only celebrate its illustrious past, it must consciously prepare for a future worthy of that past. Accordingly, we began by strengthening the foundations of institutional governance through forward-looking policies that reinforce accountability, deepen research, promote innovation, accelerate digital transformation, expand international collaboration, and align this university with contemporary global realities. Enduring institutions, no doubt, are sustained not by occasional brilliance, but by dependable systems. We also recognize that no university rises above the confidence of its people. Our staff remain the custodians of its people. Our staff remain the custodians of our intellectual heritage, while our students remain the reason that heritage exists. Accordingly, staff welfare, promotion, and professional fulfillment have received renewed attention, restoring confidence and reaffirming our commitment to merit, equity, and academic excellence. Our students, in turn, continue to benefit from expanding opportunities in entrepreneurship, innovation, digital skills, and global partnership, empowering them not merely to earn degrees, but to create value in an increasingly knowledge-driven world. Academic renewal has equally remained central to our rebuilding agenda. New academic programs, the unbundling of existing disciplines, the establishment of the Faculty and Department of Criminology and Security Studies, improved research support, strengthened digital infrastructure, enhanced learning facilities, and growing international visibility, all point in one direction. The University of Nigeria is not standing still. The lion is moving deliberately, purposefully, confidently, not because the journey is complete, but because the journey has truly begun. History has never rewarded institutions that merely remember yesterday. History honors those with the courage to prepare for tomorrow. Agree here, where the future is forged in the furnace of now. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, every memorable conversation requires a worthy meeting place. Today, that place is Agree here in Nsukka, Idekarumona. The ancient earth has witnessed generations come and go. It has welcomed dreamers, scholars, builders, and visionaries. It welcomed Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the first president of Nigeria, when he planted here the audacious idea of a university founded to restore the dignity of man. More than 6 decades later, it continues to remind us that great institutions are sustained not by memory alone, but by the courage of each generation to enlarge the dreams it inherits. That is the spirit in which we have embraced our own mandate. Arise, let us rebuild has never been a slogan of convenience. It is our solemn response to history's enduring challenge that every generation must leave its institution stronger than it found it. Every policy we have enacted, every academic reform we have pursued, every infrastructural project we have undertaken, every investment in our staff, our students, our research, our global partnerships, and our learning environment has been inspired by one conviction. That is, that rebuilding is the practical expression of hope. Hope is never built tomorrow. It is built today. Perhaps that explains why this gathering feels so remarkably fitting for our distinguished Convocation lecturer. He has consistently reminded us through both thought and action that tomorrow is here. In those three words lies a profound philosophy of leadership. They reject the temptation of postponement. They challenge the culture of deferred responsibility. They remind us that the future is not a date on the calendar. It is a decision. It is built whenever vision finds the discipline of execution. It's no surprise, therefore, that his stewardship of Enugu State continues to reflect that philosophy through bold investments in education, infrastructure, healthcare, security, enterprise, and institutional renewal. Here then, upon Egihe, three enduring ideas quietly converge. The founder reminds us to restore the dignity of man. The university answers, arise, let us rebuild. The Convocation lecturer declares, tomorrow is here. Three voices, three generations, one unbroken conversation across time. More than 6 decades ago, the great Sikh looked beyond the uncertainties of a young nation and planted upon these Egihe hills an idea whose mortal face has refused to diminish with the passing of time. He understood that nations are not ultimately rebuilt by abundance of their natural resources, but by the elevation of their human resources. Thus, he bequeathed to this university not merely a motto, but a civilizational creed. In those 6 immortal words, education ceased to be the acquisition of certificates and became the restoration of humanity itself. Today, another visionary voice rises from the seat of governance in Enugu State. His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisimba reminds us with equal urgency that tomorrow is here. It is a profound declaration that the future is not a distant inheritance waiting patiently beyond the horizon. The future is a present responsibility. It is fashioned not by those who postpone action until tomorrow, but by those who summon tomorrow into the decisions they make today. Every society that waits for the future eventually discovers that the future has arrived without it. Standing between these two compelling visions is the present calling of the University of Nigeria. If Zik defined our enduring purpose and Governor Mba proclaims the future forged in the foundry of now, then our administration has embraced the inevitable imperative that binds both together. Inspired by the timeless resolve of Nehemiah, we have declared to this university community, arise, let us rebuild. For tomorrow cannot inhabit institutions content with yesterday's decay. The dignity of man cannot be restored within walls surrendered to neglect. Great visions demand worthy vessels, and worthy vessels must continually be rebuilt. Seen from this perspective, these are not 3 separate philosophies. They are 3 chapters of the same enduring narrative. Zik gives us the moral destination Mba confronts us with the urgency of time. Nehemiah teaches us the discipline of action. One answers why we must build. Another reminds us when we must build. And the third summons us how we must build. And so, at this historic convocation, the University of Nigeria becomes the meeting point of these three enduring voices. Here, the dignity of man is not a relic of our past, but a compass of our future. Here, tomorrow is not an abstract promise, but a present assignment. Here, rebuilding is not merely an infrastructural undertaking, but the perpetual renewal of ideas, institutions, and ideals. This, perhaps, is the deeper significance of our gathering today. We are not merely convening a convocation. We are not convening a convocation lecture. We are witnessing the convergence on vision, urgency, and responsibility. We are celebrating the rare moment when the wisdom of a founder, the imagination of a reforming governor, and the resolve of a rebuilding university speak, not in competing voices, but in harmonious cadence, affirming one eternal truth, that education fulfills its highest purpose only when it resolves humanities, it restores human dignity, anticipates the future before it arrives, and possesses the courage to rebuild itself in every generation. Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief and our visitor, I'm sure he'll be represented tomorrow. Honorable Minister and our Chancellor and Pro-Chancellor, Chairman of Council and members of Governing Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for honoring this university with your presence and sharing in this defining moment in our continuing journey to renewal. And to you, Your Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, Governor Enugu State, we extend a particularly warm welcome to the Lion's Den. We welcome you not only as the Chief Executive of our dear state, but as a fellow believer in the transformative power of ideas, as one who understands that institutions shape destinies and that the future belongs to those who possess the courage to build it today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lion's Den has played its part. The ancient earth of Egihe has convened another conversation. The forge has been lit. The future awaits its lesson, its next lesson. Welcome once again to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where the future is forged in the furnace of now. Thank you, and God bless the University of Nigeria.
That was the Vice Chancellor, University of Nigeria. In the University of Nigeria, we have a Nehemiah of our time, a man who believes that the broken walls, our hostels, and our broken roads will be rebuilt, and he is walking his talk. Gentlemen, can we give it up for the Vice Chancellor once again? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point is a point and a moment we have been expecting. That point we'll hear from His Excellency, the Governor of our state. But before that happens, Your Excellency, sir, we love you and we want to see you very boldly. May I humbly and very respectfully request that you come up here as I invite Professor Chris Abedo to read your citation. Professor Chris Abedo.
I'm waiting for them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The future remembers the eternal now. A citation on His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, Governor of Enugu State, and Convocation lecturer at the 55th Convocation ceremony of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. The future has a remarkable memory. It never forgets the discipline of the present. Long before history applauds great achievements, tomorrow has already been quietly taking notes. That is, of vision pursued, opportunities seized, and responsibilities embraced. What generations eventually celebrate as destiny is often nothing more than today's courage, refusing to become tomorrow's excuse. Surely, tomorrow has never been the true architect of progress. It builds nothing. It merely unveils what determined minds have already fashioned in the workshop of the present. Between imagination and accomplishment stands an invisible foundry where ideas become institutions, vision becomes fire, discipline becomes the hammer, courage becomes the anvil, and the character becomes the artisan. There, hope sheds its poetry and learns the language of construction. His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, has chosen to converse with history in that language. His enduring declaration, "Tomorrow is here," is neither a slogan nor an exercise in optimism. It is philosophy. It rejects postponement as a habit of leadership and insists that every worthy tomorrow is conceived, nurtured, and delivered by the integrity of today's decisions. The shortest distance between hope and history, he reminds us, is disciplined execution. The story of this distinguished legal icon, disruptive entrepreneur, shrewd strategist, and an uncommon executive governor is therefore not merely the biography of a public servant. It is the biography and idea that vision wear overalls, that dreams deserve blueprints, and that leadership finds its highest expression, not in promises eloquently made, but in possibilities deliberately built. Every enduring craft begins with apprenticeship. Before public office became his responsibility, learning had already become his lifelong companion. The discipline of law, lapped up from the crucibles of the University of East London, UK, Nigerian Law School, and Lagos State University, sharpened his understanding of jurisprudence, specializing in commercial and international maritime law. Enterprise revealed the quiet grammar of value. Strategy taught him that direction often matters more than speed. From Lagos Business School to Said Business School, University of Oxford, UK, from IESE Business School, Barcelona, Spain, to Harvard Business School and Stanford University, USA. Every classroom became another workshop where knowledge was refined into judgment, and education became a recurring pilgrimage rather than a destination. Enterprise became the first public examination of that philosophy. Markets reward neither slogans nor sentiments. They reward value. Pinnacle Oil and Gas did not inherit prominence. It earned it through disciplined innovation. While others counted limitations, vision counted possibilities. As our proverbial law reminds us, the tree that now shelters the village was once dismissed as a stubborn seedling. Such is the quiet character of disruption. It rarely announces itself with noise. It simply persuades old certainties to retire. Public service merely enlarged the canvas. Roads became more than asphalt. They became arteries through which opportunities circulate. Security became the grammar of prosperity. Healthcare became hope clothed in compassion. Technology became intelligence acquiring speed. Education became the architect of tomorrow. The vision of a smart green school in every ward is therefore more than an infrastructural project. It is a declaration that children should not merely inherit the future. Instead, they should possess the imagination and competence to redesign it in the foundry of now. Yet, today's honor reaches beyond the remarkable achievement of one leader. It is also a conversation between two enduring philosophies. Every great institution has an address. Only a few possess an ancestry. The University of Nigeria, Nsukka, stands upon one, the Egihe. Not merely a landscape upon the map of Nsukka, but a landscape upon the memory of the people. Egihe received every generation without surrendering the wisdom of those before it. 65 years ago, the great Zik of Africa planted upon these sacred hills an idea that had refused to grow old, to restore the dignity of man. 3 years ago, His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, challenged the grammar of deferred possibilities with a bold declaration. Tomorrow is here. 11 months ago, inspired by Nehemiah's timeless summons, our own dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Simon Uchenna Otuanya, rallied the Egihe community with a covenant of renewal. Arise, let us rebuild the University of Nigeria. Today, in a remarkable convergence of history, philosophy, and purpose, our convocation lecturer arrives at the same Egihe to echo and enlarge that immortal vision through his lecture, Restoring the Dignity of Man, Enugu's Quantum Leap in Human Development and Inclusive Prosperity through Experiential Learning. 3 voices, 3 moments in time, 1 enduring covenant. Zik depicted the vision. Dr. Mba declared its urgency. Professor Otuanya embraced its responsibility. Human dignity cannot flourish where hope is endlessly deferred. Tomorrow, severed from the task of restoring human dignity, becomes little more than another date upon the calendar. Rebuilding, pursued without a compelling moral purpose, risks producing stronger walls around weaker values. Between these declarations stand the enduring bridge of enlightened leadership. That is, imagination that dares to conceive what does not exist yet. Discipline that patiently transforms visions into institutions. Humility that measures power by service. Wisdom to leave behind institutions than impressions. Chairman, sir, the quiet strength of the public leader is anchored in the gentle constancy of the family man, lovingly supported by his beloved wife and children. Private virtues, when faithfully nurtured, often become the unseen architecture of public excellence. It is therefore less surprising that both the academy and the nation have found enduring reasons to celebrate his excellency's uncommon synthesis of thought, leadership, and service. To this effect, University of Nigeria and Godfrey Okoye University recognized the uncommon dialogue between his ideas and his achievements with the honorary degrees of Doctor of Law, LLD, and Doctor of Philosophy in Political Science, respectively. Public recognition has followed with equal conviction. The Nigerian Excellence Award in Public Service for Road Infrastructure, the National MSME Award of the Office of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Governor of the Year honors by this day, New Telegraph newspapers, and Silverbird Media Group, and the rare distinction of being named both Governor of the Year and Man of the Year by the Daily Sun newspapers. Such honors are more than laurels. They are the nation's quiet applause for leadership translated into lives transformed. Chairman, sir, as the ancient hills of Nsukka keep their faithful watch, as Alexandria continues her quiet guardianship over the enduring sanctuary of learning, as the lion of this great university keeps roaring across generations, may the future, like every enduring civilization, return again and again to the only place where it has ever truly been made, the now. Chairman, Pro-Chancellor, and Chairman of the Governing Council, members of the Council, Vice Chancellor, and management team, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, great lions and lionesses. It is with profound honor that I present to this august audience the lecturer for the 55th Convocation Ceremony of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, an uncommon rebel against postponement, an entrepreneur whose vision creates value, an innovative builder who understands that institutions outlive personality, a legal icon, a strategist who measures leadership by execution, a disruptive apostle of inestimable possibilities, a consummate leader who believes that the future is never found waiting beyond the horizon, who rises from the courage to build in the eternal now. His Excellency, Dr. Peter Ondobinsi Mba, I so present.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sure you almost can't wait. The Deputy
Governor of Enugu State, Your Excellency Barrister Ifeanyi Osai, the Senator representing Enugu North Senatorial District, Distinguished Senator Ikeje Asogwa, the member representing Nsukka, Ibueze South at the Federal House of Representatives, Right Honorable Mark Obeta. The Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Dr. Kingsley Ude, SAN. The APC Chairman, Enugu State, Dr. Martins Chukwunwike, and other party faithfuls here today. The chairman of this occasion, Professor Chinedu Nebo, the Catholic Bishop of Nsukka Diocese, His Lordship, Professor Godfrey Gwebike Ona, the Deputy Speaker, Enugu State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Ugochukwu Ezenta Ezani, and other principal officers and members of the Enugu State House of Assembly here with us today. The Pro-Chancellor of this great university, Professor Karim Adeboyega, and his adorable wife, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Simon Otoanya, and your amiable wife, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Virginia University, United States of America, Dr. Franklin Richardson, and your beautiful wife with us today. Visiting Vice Chancellors of other universities here, Deputy Vice Chancellors and other principal officers of the university, members of the Governing Council, members of the University Senate, Secretary to the State Government and other members of Enugu State Executive Council, Chairman, Enugu State Traditional Rulers Council, His Royal Majesty, Igwe Samuel Asado Ogada Gidi. Special advisors here, Chairman Nsukka Local Government and other chairmen of local government here with us, deans of faculties, our revered royal fathers, the clergy, heads of boards, departments, agencies, and parastatals, captains of industry, top government functionaries, professors and emeritus professors, academic and non-academic staff of the university community, student union president, distinguished guests, lions and lionesses, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I am deeply honored to deliver the 55th Convocation lecture of this great university. A university that was born not merely to award degrees, but to redefine the purpose of higher education in Africa. Permit me to express my appreciation to the Governing Council, the Pro-Chancellor, the Senate, the Vice-Chancellor, University Management, and other principal professors that are here with us. It is most fitting that today's lecture is titled Restoring the Dignity of Man, Enugu's Quantum Leap in Human Development and Inclusive Prosperity through Experiential Learning. I cannot imagine a more compelling theme. It speaks directly to the socio-economic imperatives of our age, when states are challenged not merely to pursue economic development, but to ensure human dignity, expands opportunity, equips citizens and with practical and competencies, and leaves no community behind. Every great university has a philosophy that transcends its physical structures. The University of Nigeria, Nsukka, gave itself an even more profound mission, which is as relevant today as it was at its founding, to restore the dignity of man. Those 6 words, chosen by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe as the guiding purpose of this university, answered one of the defining challenges of their time. Nigeria stood on the threshold of independence, emerging from colonial rule that had denied millions not only political freedom, but also the agency to realize their potential. Across Africa, a new generation was asking whether education could do more than produce graduates. Could it restore self-worth? Could it equip a people to think for themselves, shape their future, and take their rightful place in the world with confidence? That was the challenge into which this university was born. Today, 65 years later, we inhabit a different world, yet one that poses a similar question. Artificial intelligence, biotechnology, automation, climate change, demographic transformation, and the knowledge economy are shifting the foundations of prosperity. The wealth of nations is increasingly determined by what lies beneath their soil than by what has been cultivated within their citizens. Ingenuity, creativity, adaptability, and capability. What then does it mean to restore the dignity of man in 21st century? I submit that dignity must be measured not simply by political freedom or constitutional rights, indispensable though they remain. It must also be measured by the capability of every citizen to learn continuously, think critically, create boldly, innovate confidently, and contribute meaningfully to society. True dignity exists when people possess not merely the freedom to aspire, but the capability to transform aspiration into achievement, potential into productivity, and possibility into shared prosperity. This invites us to rethink development itself. Roads, buildings, industries, and public expenditure matter enormously, but they are means rather than ends. The true measure of development is the expansion of human capability, the capability to live a long and healthy life, acquire meaningful knowledge, participate productively in society, solve problems creatively, and improve the lives of others. This understanding resonates with Dr. Azikiwe's vision for what is the restoration of human dignity, if not the expansion of people's capability to live lives of purpose, contribution, and flourishing. The Human Development Index reflects this principle through 3 dimensions: a long and healthy life, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living. The challenge before us is therefore not education, healthcare, infrastructure, industrialization, or economic transformation considered separately. It is human development in its full sense. Education develops capability. Healthcare protects it. Infrastructure connects it to opportunity. Industry converts it into productivity and enterprise. Strong institutions sustain it. Together, they form an architecture in which dignity can flourish. Education occupies a distinctive place because it is a catalyst through which every other investment acquires enduring values. Yet, education itself must evolve. In an age when artificial intelligence can retrieve information instantly and perform routine cognitive tasks, education can no longer be defined by the transmission of facts. It must cultivate curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, character, and the confidence to solve problems not yet imagined. For this to happen, we require a different education philosophy. What has been called experiential learning. Experiential learning transforms knowledge into capability, enabling learners not merely to know the world, but to shape it. That is why I speak today about Enugu's quantum leap in human development and inclusive prosperity through experiential learning, which brings us back to Dr. Azikiwe's enduring challenge. Have we restored the dignity of man? The honest answer is that we have made remarkable progress, but our work remains unfinished. Nigeria has produced world-class entrepreneurs, scholars, artists, scientists, and innovators. Millions of lives have been transformed through education. Across the Southeast, the spirit of enterprise, resilience, and self-determination remains one of our greatest strengths. These achievements testify to the extraordinary capability of our people. Yet, too many young people still leave university with qualifications, but without clear pathways to opportunity. Too many families invest everything in education only to discover that it ends with a certificate rather than productive participation. Too many communities continue to wrestle with insecurity, unemployment, inadequate health care, weak infrastructure, and the migration of talented people who no longer believe their future lies where they were born. For too many citizens, dignity remains an aspiration rather than a lived experience. Human development asks us to look beyond income and examine whether people live long and healthy lives, acquire meaningful knowledge, and possess the material conditions required to participate fully in society. Multi-dimensional poverty reminds us that deprivation is seldom only a shortage of income, poor learning, inadequate health care, insecure work, deficient housing, limited sanitation, weak connectivity, and exposure to shocks reinforce one another. Poverty is rarely one problem at a time. Education revealed one of our most consequential deficits. The Enugu Academic Field Study of December 2023 confronted us with a crisis. Half of the assessed children could not read a single word in English after 4 years of schooling. more than half of primary 6 pupils could not solve basic subtraction, and the average teacher assessed read a primary 6 passage at only 107 correct words per minute. These are interconnected chains. Children outside school, children inside school without foundational learning. Inadequately supported teachers, dilapidated infrastructure, a rural-urban digital divide, exclusion of vulnerable learners, and insufficient data to show who was learning and where the system was failing. Beyond foundational learning stood a skills gap. Our institutions were not consistently producing the technical, digital, entrepreneurial, creative, and transferable capability demanded by changing economy. Beyond the skills gap stood the activation gap. Even where knowledge and talent existed, too few systems connected them to opportunity. Learning did not reliably become livelihood. Research did not consistently become innovation. Skills did not readily become enterprise. These deficits were reinforced by inadequate healthcare, unreliable electricity, weak connectivity, deteriorating roads, limited finance, low industrial capacity, and fragmented institutions. A sick child cannot learn effectively. A qualified graduate cannot build an enterprise without power, transport, capital, connectivity, and markets. A community cut off from infrastructure is also cut off from opportunity. This is not simply an economic challenge. It is a systemic one. Our people did not lack intelligence, talent, enterprise, and aspiration. The systems around them too often failed to convert potential into broadly shared prosperity. The harder question, therefore, is not whether we have made progress. It is whether we have transformed the conditions in which dignity can flourish, or whether we have mistaken progress for transformation. The scale of these deficits may tempt us to believe that the answer lies simply in more money, more schools, more hospitals, roads, programs, or policies. These investments matter. But investment alone does not guarantee transformation. A new school operating through obsolete pedagogy may expand enrollment without expanding learning. A hospital without trained personnel, medicines, power, referral systems, and accountable management may increase infrastructure without improving health. A skills program designed without industry may produce certificates without employability. The investment is real, but the transformation remains elusive. The first hidden source of the dysfunctional is the input fallacy. The assumption that more resources necessarily produce better human outcomes. Inputs are what government provides: money, buildings, equipment, personnel, and program. Outcomes are what citizens become able to do. Children read and reason. Patients receive effective care. Graduates create value. Farmers reach markets. Communities connect to opportunity. The distinction between provision and performance, as development scholars such as Douglas North and Peter Evans have shown, determine whether institutions convert investment into capability. More recently, Matt Andrews, Lan Pritchett, and Michael Woolcock have warned of capability traps in which institutions adopt the visible form of successful systems, plans, agencies, laws, building, and reporting structures without acquiring the practical capacity to solve problems. They call these isomorphic mimicry, looking like a functioning institution without reliably producing its outcomes. The second is path dependence, which refers to the tendency of systems to continue along inherited trajectories long after their original assumptions have ceased to serve us. For instance, our political independence from colonialism changed the ownership of our institutions without transforming their underlying logic. We expanded education, governance, and healthcare as we knew them, but too rarely asked whether the assumption upon which they were built remained adequate to the future. The third inhibitor is sectoral fragmentation. Government is organized into ministries, but human beings do not experience life in sectors. The hungry child carries nutrition into the classroom. The graduate without electricity or connectivity carries infrastructure into the labor market. The rural community without a road is simultaneously excluded from healthcare, education, markets, and investment. And as the systems analyst, Donella Meadows, has argued, individual projects may succeed while the larger system continues to need only be somewhat larger, faster, or more efficient. Incremental improvement has its place. But when the framework itself is no longer equal to the problem, doing the same things better cannot produce a different future. It becomes the management of decline. To break out of that circle, a systemic transformation is needed. This is the context for understanding Enugu's quantum's leap. The quantum leap is not a longer jump within the old development model. It is a different way of seeing, questioning, connecting, and acting. It is what I have called the disruptive innovation. And we're not going to do a deep dive on disruptive innovation because that is not the theme of this lecture. But elsewhere, we have also explained how disruptive innovation creates a new X-curve. When we started from a new X, from the era of ferment, and we begin to go into an era of explosion, and at a point we get to the plateau and it becomes flattened. We then need to innovate in order to disrupt that S that had served us optimally but no longer able to take us to the future. The history of science offers us a useful analogy. Quantum physics did not emerge by making Newtonian mechanics move faster. It began when scientists questioned whether the inherited framework could explain realities it had not been designed to see. Newtonian mechanics remained valuable within its domain, but a different order of reality required a different set of questions. So, it is with development. We must ask, what assumptions informed the framework we inherited? Why do we measure government by what it builds rather than by what people become capable of doing? Why should a school be organized around memorization when the future demands creativity? Why should health, transport, power, education, industry, and tourism be planned as separate projects when citizens experience them as one life? Why should the limitations of yesterday determine the ambition of tomorrow? Quantum thinking questions the status quo at the level of its founding assumptions. It begins with the human outcome we seek and designs backwards. It connects intervention that bureaucracy separates. It uses technology, evidence, and institutional learning to create new possibilities. It asks not merely, how can we improve what exists, but what should exist if we designed from purpose? This is not change for its own sake. It is disciplined, systemic, and disruptive innovation. It recognizes that a classroom connected to power, broadband, nutrition, healthcare, a prepared teacher, and an experiential curriculum is not merely a better classroom. It is a different developmental platform. A road linked to agriculture, industry, aviation, tourism, and markets is not merely a transport project. It is an economic network. Enugu's quantum leap is therefore a paradigm shift from projects to systems, from inputs to human outcomes, from inherited assumptions to purposeful design, from isolated sectors from isolated sectors to connected development, and from managing scarcity to activating possibility. But every paradigm shift begins in the imagination. Before we can build differently, we must first believe differently and confront the constraints that makes inherited limitations appear permanent, what we call the poverty of imagination. Every transformation begins before the first road is built. The mind, it begins in the human imagination. Every invention, scientific breakthrough, institution, and movement that changed history first existed as an idea that refused to accept the world as it was. Before societies construct a different future, they must become capable of conceiving one. By poverty of imagination, I mean the inability of individuals, institutions, and societies to conceive, design, and build possibilities beyond inherited constraints. It is the condition in which yesterday's limitations become today's expectation and tomorrow's assumptions, when what has not yet been achieved is treated as what cannot be achieved, and when past experience becomes the boundary of public ambition. It is not poverty of intelligence, talent, determination, natural resources, or in the first instance, money. A people may possess extraordinary intelligence, entrepreneurial energy, cultural resilience, and immense potential, yet remain poor if they cannot organize these endowments into institutions that create knowledge, protect health, enable productivity, reward innovation, and extend opportunity. What we're saying is well established in scholarship. Amartya Sen teaches that development expands substantive freedom and capability. Anjan Apandurai writes of the capacity to aspire, the culturally formed ability to envision desirable futures and navigate towards them. Paulo Freire warns that historic limit situation becomes most powerful when people experience them, not as conditions that can be transformed, but as permanent boundaries. Those who repeatedly encounter opportunity develop richer maps of how possibility can be pursued. Those shaped by persistent deprivation may have fewer opportunities to imagine and navigate alternative futures. The future is built twice. First, in the imagination, and then in law, budgets, concrete, technology, and practice. If the first construction is timid, the second will be limited. Poverty of imagination begins when a condition becomes a conclusion. A dilapidated classroom is a condition. The belief that the rural children cannot receive world-class education is a conclusion. Inadequate electricity is a condition. The belief that industrialization must wait indefinitely is a conclusion. Poverty is a condition. The belief that it is permanent destiny of a people is a conclusion. Conditions can be transformed. Conclusions close the future before the work begins. Albert Hirschman's possibilism offers a disciplined alternative. Instead of listing every prerequisite a society lacks and declaring transformation impossible, it asks what combination of intelligence, institutions, incentives, leadership, technology, and collective action can overcome existing constraints. Poverty of imagination also reproduces inequality of aspiration. A privileged child encounters laboratories, mentors, networks, technology, travel, an example of success. A poor or rural child may possess equal intelligence, but fewer maps of the pathways connecting present circumstance to future possibilities. Democratizing opportunity, therefore, requires more than opening a school gate. It requires widening the child's map of the possible and supplying credible pathway through it. A poorly supported child performs badly, and the failure is attributed to the child rather than the school. A farmer works without power, storage, finance, technology, or market, and is called unproductive. A graduate enters an economy without pathways connecting knowledge, industry, enterprise, and capital, and is accused of lacking initiative. Institutional failure is misrepresented as individual deficiency. Inhibited capability is mistaken for absent capability. Immanuel Kant, and I'm sure our Lord Bishop must be smiling because that is a space I have just provoked his thoughts. Immanuel Kant described genius as an innate productive capacity, capable of producing what cannot be derived merely by following established rules. Society's responsibility is not to manufacture genius, but to create the conditions in which creativity can be discovered, cultivated, connected, and expressed. Genius may emerge in the village child, artisan, farmer, teacher, or young entrepreneur. The tragedy of underdevelopment is the contribution lost because those capabilities were never given room to flourish. The question before government is therefore not simply what can we provide for our people. It is also what might our people create if we remove the conditions that inhibit their genius. This separates imagination from fantasy. Fantasy desires an outcome without confronting what it requires. Developmental imagination identifies a possibility, studies the barriers, assembles capabilities and resources, designs institutions, and accepts responsibility for measurable results. It is disciplined possibility, moral in its inclusion, intellectual in its challenge to inherited assumptions, institutional in its translation into systems, and practical in its commitment to evidence and accountability. Development must transform the condition people have been forced to endure. This understanding is apt for the Igbo spirit, which has always been entrepreneurial, inventive, adaptive, and deeply egalitarian. The Igbo apprenticeship tradition combines learning by doing, mentorship, trust, disciplined practice, and access to networks. It moves the learner from observer to participant, and ultimately to an independent creator of opportunity for others. Our purpose here is not to romanticize the past, but to apply its deepest principle to the future. The transformation of latent potential into productive independence. This is why in Enugu we embraced experiential learning. Experiential learning, not as a foreign educational idea, but as a modern expression of our knowledge, tradition, and 21st century development imperative. Through experiential learning, we seek to democratize the conditions of possibility. Knowledge, technology, healthcare, infrastructure, mentorship, capital, connectivity, and opportunity should not be determined by birthplace, income, gender, status, or circumstance. Inclusive prosperity begins when the capacity to create value is widely developed and the opportunity to benefit from that value is broadly shared. At the center for experiential learning and innovation, what we refer to as CELI, we express this through three connected concepts. The first one is latent impact. It identifies unrealized value within learners and communities. And the second is opportunity density. Identifies the needs to which those capabilities can be applied. And the third, the activation gap, identifies the missing connections between what people know and what societies enables them to do with that knowledge. These concepts inform our ongoing redesign of curricula, teacher development, TVET industry partnership, and tertiary education. But imagination must be translated into choices, budgets, institutions, technology, infrastructure, and accountability. That translation from imagination to strategy to lived reality is the story of Enugu's quest. When I stood before the people of Enugu or incremental improvement, instead, I asked them to believe in a different future. We committed ourselves to eradicate poverty, make Enugu the preferred destination for living, working, investing, business, tourism, and leisure, and grow our economy from approximately $4.4 billion to $30 billion in 8 years. Now, some believed ambitions of this scale belonged before a commission on lunacy rather than in an election manifesto. But the greatest danger was never thinking too big. It was thinking too small. Before we laid a single kilometer of road or commissioned a project, we wrote a citizens' charter, a covenant making government accountable for the future we had promised. We committed ourselves to security, public trust, expanded opportunity, and investment where human development leverage could be achieved. This became the foundation of Enugu's quantum leap. The deliberate acceleration of human development by removing multiple structural barriers simultaneously and building the integrated conditions through which capability can flourish. We would not treat schools, health facilities, roads, power, agriculture, industry, transport, and technology as isolated projects. Rather, we design them as connected platforms for human capability. Within this architecture, education occupies the center. For successful, I'm sure it must excite people in this room, the great lion and lionesses. For successive budget cycles, approximately 1/3 of the state budget had been devoted to education. Not simply to construct buildings, but to ensure that every child in every ward can access a school that prepares that child for the future, not the past. Our response is a network of 268 smart green school campuses covering all our 260 political wards, approximately 7,000 classrooms, with interactive smart boards, 26,000 desktop computers, laboratories, digital libraries, innovation studios, clinics, smart farms, school meals, water, teachers' accommodation, solar energy, and internet connectivity. Our basic education, uniforms, and learning materials are free of charge. The purpose is to close the divides between rural and urban children, attendance and genuine learning, knowledge acquired and capability activated. The pathway continues through our smart senior secondary schools, modern TVET colleges, and transformed tertiary institutions. At the heart of this education transformation is again CELI, the Center for Experiential Learning and Innovation, responsible for integrating curriculum, teacher development, research, digital literacy, skill intelligence, industry partnerships, and evidence. More than 23,000 teachers have undergone digital literacy development. And we have just recently approved the merit-based recruitment of 4,698 additional teachers for our smart green schools. Buildings and devices do not create learning. Their value depends upon teachers capable of awakening curiosity, guiding inquiry, and connecting knowledge to application. Across our technical and vocational education and training colleges, we have launched joint school enterprise training programs, through which our technically inclined students are being trained in modern ICT industry knowledge at the Enugu Higher Factory, as well as in mechatronics, aquaponics, precision welding, and fabrication and fashion and design. Beyond TVET and senior secondary schools, we are transforming our tertiary institutions, including the Enugu State University of Science and Technology, the State University of Medical and Applied Sciences, our health colleges, the Enugu State Polytechnic at Iwolo, and the State College of Education Technical, into institutions that connect knowledge to research, technology, enterprise, production, and public value. We're establishing a new state university of artificial intelligence and technology. a new state university of education and technology, and a new state university of agriculture, agro-industrialization, and technology. At ESUT and IMT, we have accredited new degree programs in automation, artificial intelligence, mechatronics, while enabling our ESUT College of Medicine to rank top in national accreditation. Meanwhile, our State University of Medical and Applied Sciences at Ibuano demonstrates how teaching, research, innovation, and service can meet. Its recent international medical mission treated 3,150 patients and performed 804 surgical procedures within 2 weeks. Major institution-based and national-sponsored research projects are underway. Our ambition has never been simply to educate children. It is to develop citizens who think critically, solve problems creatively, embrace technology confidently, act with character, and imagine possibility beyond those they inherited. But government must be judged not by the scale of its projects, but by what those projects make possible in human lives. What does this architecture look like in the life of one child? What does a quantum shift in education look like? It begins when a child walks through the gates of a smart green school. That child enters not a system designed simply to transfer information, but an environment designed to awaken curiosity, character, confidence, and capability. Learning extends from the classroom into the laboratory, library, farm, innovation studio, community, and the wider world. Children investigate real problems, test ideas, build solutions, learn from failure, and reflect upon what they discover. Permit me to illustrate what that journey can become. Recently, a young learner named Arinze Edoga from our pilot Smart Green School in the rural community of Owo stood before a room filled with students in Enugu City, not as a visitor or observer, but as their instructor. Confidently, he taught digital literacy, demonstrated practical ICT skills, responded to questions, and displayed the problem-solving habits he had developed through experiential learning. Only 2 years earlier, Arinze had entered one of our smart green schools in a community many might have assumed would remain at the margins of technological opportunity. Yet, he had acquired the competence and confidence to teach children whom conventional thinking might have expected to teach him. For too long, we accepted that knowledge flows in one direction, from cities to villages, the privileged to the overlooked, those with opportunity to those without. But when we democratize quality education, knowledge moves in every direction. A rural school becomes a center of innovation. A village child becomes a teacher of urban peers. A community once regarded merely as a beneficiary becomes a contributor. In Arinze, you see more than a young boy using a computer. You see restored confidence, democratized opportunity, and a child once defined by geography becoming a creator of knowledge rather than merely a consumer of it. You see the dignity of man. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe understood that dignity is restored when education enables people to discover their worth and contribute meaningfully to society. Our responsibility is to extend that dignity to every child, in every community, no matter how remote. One child cannot prove system-wide transformation, but one child can reveal capabilities the inherited system failed to see and demonstrate what becomes possible when infrastructure, technology, pedagogy, mentorship, and opportunity are deliberately brought together. Arinze is not an anecdote offered in place of evidence. He's an early demonstration of the theory. Imagine what 2 years have produced in the life of one learner. Then, imagine 10 years. Imagine Enugu when hundreds of thousands of children grow up believing not that they are waiting for opportunity to arrive, but that they possess the capability to create it. Imagine. That journey continues through secondary school, education, TVETs, and universities. Technical education must connect skills to industry, production, and enterprise. University education must open deep inquiry, collaboration, technology, and applied learning. Yet, financial hardship must not close the final gate. And this is where I couldn't agree anymore with the Vice Chancellor on the impact of the President's initiative. So I acknowledge, just as you did, the consequential intervention of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, through the Nigerian Education Loan Fund by providing interest-free support for Nigerian students. NEL Fund advances a principle we strongly support. Tertiary education must no longer remain the preserve of the wealthy or privileged few. I commend Mr. President for helping to democratize that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President. No pathway should be considered inferior. The graduate, technician, artisan, agricultural innovator, software developer, nurse, teacher, engineer, creative professionals, and entrepreneur all create value. The responsibility of the system is to help every learner discover where individual capability can meet societal need. Our task is not simply to build better schools. It is to build a generation capable of imagining and creating a future worthy of the dignity that Dr. Azikiwe envisioned. But knowledge cannot become prosperity in a vacuum. Can I have water? Where's my water?
Na Peter Mbaba onye ndu Peter bụ onye ndu okwute ndị Igbo dịrị anyị ka ije Enugu ga-achawapụ Peter Mbaba onye ndu Peter bụ onye ndu okwute ndị Igbo dịrị anyị ka ije Enugu ga-achawapụ Enugu ga-achawapụ Enugu ga-achawapụ Enugu ga-achawapụ Enugu ga-achawapụ.
Thank you. Having reimagined the journey of the child, we must build the world around that child's knowledge. Building new infrastructure may take months. Building a new culture takes much longer. The greatest threat to Enugu's quantum leap is the return of habits that produce the old outcomes. Weak maintenance, low expectations, fragmented implementation, and the belief that public institutions belong to government rather than the people they serve. We must see every school, health center, road, power facility, farm estate, public asset, not as a gift from government, but as a shared investment in our future. Government must provide standards, personnel, funding, data, and accountability. Communities must protect these investments and participate in their success. We must also resist judging every reform by its immediate return. The oil palm does not yield its richest fruits in the season it's planted. It first puts down roots before sustaining families for decades. So it is with human development. For a child entering a transformed Enugu Smart Green School today, the greatest return on that investment may become visible in the life and contribution of that child 20 years from now. This demands patience, but not complacency. We must measure results, correct what is not working, train the people who operate our institutions, budget for maintenance, and build systems that survive changes of personnel and administration. The quantum leap will endure only when reform becomes culture, performance becomes expectations, and public value becomes a shared responsibility. The capable child we have imagined cannot flourish in isolation. Education may awaken possibility, but healthcare protects it. Infrastructure connects it. Power activates it. Technology multiplies it. Industry applies it. And institutions sustain it. This is why Enugu's reforms are designed as one human development architecture rather than a collection of unrelated projects. Across our 260 wards, the principle that places a smart green school within reach of every child is also extending modern primary health care to families and farm estates to rural communities. We are strengthening healthcare because preventable illness must not destroy the capability education develops. Consider transport. Enugu Air is not simply an airline. It is an instrument of connectivity and economic geography. It connects our people to markets, investment, knowledge, tourism, and opportunity. Its ambition reaches beyond domestic travels, stronger links across the major cities of the world. And through this wider aviation network, Enugu becomes easier to connect. Enugu becomes easier to reach. Enugu becomes easier for businesses to come to. Universities, medical institutions, conference economy, and tourism assets become easier to engage. We're also reconnecting communities to schools, hospitals, farms, markets, industry through an expanding road network, 5 modern transport terminals, and cleaner public transportation and improving mobility, and connecting Enugu to the wider economy. Consider power. Historically, Enugu has received only about 60 megawatts of electricity from the grid. In the coming weeks, we expect to break ground on a 660 megawatts power generation project, 11 times above our historical supplies. This is not merely more electricity. It changes what becomes possible: reliable healthcare, digital learning, industrial production, cold storage, technology, enterprise, research, hospitality, and jobs. Power is not just one sector among many. It is an enabling platform for all of them. Consider healthcare. Across our wards, many primary healthcare is moving closer to families. At the tertiary level, the new 300-bed Enugu International Hospital is being developed as a 5-star center for advanced specialized care. And in few days, that will be again open to the world. We will provide world-class medical service with top-notch professionals. We're also building the Sumas Teaching Hospital into one of the best resource teaching hospitals in West Africa, connecting medical education, clinical practice, research, and service. These investments protect life while creating the skilled workforce and knowledge base for a medical economy. Consider conferencing and tourism. The Enugu International Conference Center gives the state a platform to host ideas, institutions, investors, professional communities, and global events. Our investments in hotels, waterfalls, caves, forests, lakes, cultural assets, and visitors' experiences are not decorative additions to development. Tourism is an ancillary ecosystem that supports aviation, transport, hospitality, agriculture, education, the creative economy, retail, and employment. These investments reinforce one another. Aviation brings the visitor, investor, scholars, or patient. A road connects a farmer to a market, a patient to a hospital, an entrepreneur to a customer. Reliable power supports the hospital, classroom, factory, hotel, and digital enterprise. Education and research provide the talent. Tourism and conferences create demand. Better health protects productivity. Skills connected to industry become livelihood. Enterprise converts these connections into jobs and value. This is the Enugu Human Development Model. Seeing relationship where the old framework saw separate sectors and coordinating the conditions that enable people to learn, live, create, produce, and prosper. Its success will be measured not only by projects delivered, but by healthier lives, stronger learning, productive work, rising enterprise, and expanded opportunity. A society reveals its character by the pathways it creates for the rural child, the struggling family, the overlooked entrepreneur, the person living with disability, the every young citizen seeking a chance to contribute. Prosperity becomes inclusive when access does not depend upon birthplace, income, gender, status, or personal connection. That is the Enugu we're building. A society in which every citizen is recognized not merely as a beneficiary of development, but as a potential creator of value and a participant in our shared future. Permit me, as I conclude, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to ask you to look beyond the next project, budget, or election cycle. Imagine Enugu 20 years from now if we sustain investment in human capability. The child entering a smart green school today will be an adult building companies, treating patients, designing technology, transforming agriculture, teaching, conducting research, or leading institutions. What we build around that child today will determine whether this knowledge remains a private achievement or becomes a shared prosperity. That future will not be created by government alone. Universities must advance inquiry, invention, and public problem solving. The private sector must connect knowledge to enterprise and employment. Teachers must cultivate curiosity and character. Communities must protect public investment. Citizens must demand accountability. Government must remain disciplined, inclusive, and faithful to the mission. We often ask, what kind of society do we want to build? But should the more demanding question not be, what kind of people must we become to build that society? We must become a people unwilling to accept inherited limitations as permanent conclusions, prepared to question, learn, create, collaborate, maintain, and improve, to build institutions stronger than personalities and opportunities broad enough to reach every community. The future is never built tomorrow. It is built in the decision we make today. Every thought we entertain, every standard we refuse to compromise, every child we encourage, every act of service we offer, every problem we choose to solve shapes the society our children will inherit. Nations do not transform by accident. They transform when ordinary citizens accept responsibility for the future they desire. So let us refuse the poverty of imagination. Let us reject the quiet invitation to settle, wait, or believe that excellence belongs somewhere else. Let us measure leadership by the capability it develops in others, education by the lives learners become able to shape, and development by the dignity and opportunity it extends to every citizen. 65 years ago, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe gave this university a purpose: to restore the dignity of man. That purpose remains unfinished, but it is not beyond our reach. If 65 years from now, another generation gathers in this great university and asks whether we restored the dignity of man, may they answer not by reading our speeches or recalling our promises, but by living in the society we had the courage to imagine, the discipline to build, and the determination to leave behind. That is our quantum leap. This is our invitation. And for us in Enugu, tomorrow is not coming. Our tomorrow is here. Thank you very much.
Ezigbo obodo ọma, Enugu amaka, anyị enweghị obodo ọzọ. Enugu amaka, ezigbo obodo ọma, Enugu amaka, anyị enweghị obodo ọzọ. Onye pụta n'igwe, ka anyị dozie n'ụba.